Takehiko Inoue is different, yet the same compared to other manga artists. He has his own ways of drawing inspiration, just like his peers, which are then inked to those soothing white sheets under the immense pressure of the manga industry deadlines. And even after suffering through the same fate as the rest of the mangakas, his work still manages to suck us into the paper, almost like it's calling for us through an alternate dimension. I mean, I don't know about you, but I do mumble Vagabond quotes in my sleep, and my wife is sick of it. In any case, without revealing any more about my life, let's take a peek into the life of someone who can only be known by some people as a legend. Takehiko in school. Takehiko was born in Isa, Kagoshima on the 12th of January 1967 as a sibling to a younger and older brother. One thing that many people fail to mention in Takehiko's life is that he was raised mostly by his grandfather and mother after his parents split. As he grew up, he took up kendo and basketball as hobbies, but soon most of his focus time would be spent on perfecting his hooping skills instead of kendo practice. However, there was one problem. Takehiko was short, well, technically according to basketball standards at least, as he stood at around 5'6". Assigned as a point guard early on, he let the spirit of Dokaben, a popular baseball anime that he looked up, run through him as he gave his all to improve himself. While all of this was happening, Takehiko, like many of us, got tangled in the world of NBA and fell in love with Michael Jordan's play. Much of this connection comes through weekly sports magazines. In an interview, Takehiko proclaimed the Lakers to be his team of choice. Early life and getting into Weekly Shonen Jump. Now, all was going well in school for Takehiko. His art was improving along with his basketball, and he could see a future in manga. But just like everybody else in the world, life hit Takehiko, and he realized that going to an art school was financially out of reach for his family. Pausing his dream for the time being, he ended up pursuing a degree in literature from Kumamoto University near his hometown. However, even at 20, his aim was clear, and soon he caught the eye of editor Taizo Nakamura after he submitted a one-shot to Weekly Shonen Jump. He dropped out of his university to move to Tokyo and pursue what we could only define as a star-studded manga career. First works and getting his first slam dunk. Takehiko's first job in Weekly Shonen Jump was an assistant to Tsukasa Hojo, who was working on City Hunter. Up until this point, Takehiko was going through the dream life of a weeb, getting into art and then getting to work with a well-known publisher. But what finally made the difference was something that even he couldn't have imagined. Basketball, a hobby he picked up out of teenage angst, led to his debut, wherein Purple Kaide, a one-shot basketball story, got him his breakthrough in Shonen Jump in 1989. Now, many authors get their one-shots published in the weekly magazine. However, only a few of them convert them into actual series, and within those few chosen ones, only a further few are able to take them to unachievable heights. And in the case of Takehiko, he was able to take this one step further and actually rile up a revolution in Japanese sports. The story of Slam Dunk. In 1990, Weekly Shonen Jump started to print Slam Dunk, and to say that it was a hit amongst the masses would be an understatement. The story revolved around Hanamichi Sakuragi, a delinquent who wasn't really popular amongst girls despite his best efforts. But we gotta give props to the guy for not giving up, as he's been rejected by 50 girls so far in his quest. As a last-ditch effort, Sakuragi decided to ask out Haruko, but he was taken aback by her demeanor as she turned out to be the first girl not to be repulsed by him. Haruko introduced Sakuragi to basketball, and the rest is history. The story revolved around the regular anime tropes of rivals, unrequited love, and overall, the love and passion for whatever themes manga follow, whether they're shonen, seinen, or shoujo. However, these were just the early years of Jump, and people still weren't actively pointing the repeated anime tropes out, which worked in the manga's favor. However, as the anime aired in the 1990s, it brought about a revolution in basketball in Japan, with amateur teams erupting out of every small prefecture, deeply swayed by the anime. A sport that couldn't even be traced in the island nation was now a favorite. And for people watching this, it might be hard to believe that anime was non-existent in 90s Japan, as Michael Jordan was a household name for many of us. But we're talking about the 90s, when the internet was a dream and companies had to take massive risks to obtain rights for broadcasting in other countries. And even without the wave of the televised NBA matches, the sport was able to make ground just by the efforts of one man alone. Now, there are other aspects of Slam Dunk we can discuss in this video, like its highly controversial ending. Well, not really controversial, but rather rushed. But this video is about Takehiko and not Slam Dunk, so I hope you get my point. Also, many sports anime have come after Slam Dunk. None of them have had the same effect though. One of them being the much acclaimed and fan-loved Kuroko no Basket, which took basketball into a completely different dimension. I mean, literally. At the end of its run, Slam Dunk had sold 170 million copies and went on to win the 40th Shogakukan Manga Award for Shonen Manga in 1995 and was declared Japan's favorite manga in 2007. But this is still not all. Takehiko and Shueisha also created a scholarship based off his manga, which earned him an award from the JBA, the Japan Basketball Association. Sheesh. This is the tip of the iceberg and already filled to the brim with praise. But in any case, I know you're dying to get into the best parts of the work, but there's still one unknown comic to go over before we get to the main course. The not-so-successful buzzer beater. Slam Dunk abruptly ended in 1996, and soon Takehiko came out with another sports-centered online comic known as Buzzer Beater. Once again, the story revolved around basketball, but this time in outer space. And although the series got two 13-episode anime adaptations in 2005 and 2007, the audience weren't as moved as they would have been with a Slam Dunk sequel. Well, it literally tried to do something that Inazuma 11 successfully did a decade later, but I think it was probably just ahead of its time. In any case, the critics of the time acclaimed the mild response by the audience to repetition fatigue, as many anime and manga were popping off with the same themes. However, this setback was about to ignite a flame of creativity and solace in Takehiko Inoue and fend off the dark of the previous manga's response. As in Takehiko's own words, and I quote, "There is no light for those who do not know darkness." Vagabond. The year is 1999, and Takehiko is on the hunt for his next big break, something that won't just lay in the shadow of his greatest work, whose ending is now 3 years behind him. In the progression to the events, a phone call was made to Takehiko from the Morning Magazine lead editor to go over the novels on the life of Miyamoto Musashi, written by A.G. Yoshikawa. This was the story that led Takehiko to turn a leaf after working on manga for more than a decade. Instead of his usual humorous and uplifting panels, Takehiko had now picked up the Japanese brush to personify the dark in his mind into sheets of paper set before him, marking the birth of Vagabond. The story of Vagabond follows Miyamoto Musashi, a swordsman born in late 16th century Japan, who takes it upon himself to become Tenkai Muso, which literally translates to the strongest one below the sun. This meant he was on the quest to become the strongest man on the face of the earth. However, instead of the story diving into the uniqueness of Musashi's style of fighting, or his 1 in a million blade, or even his unreachable level of strength and precision, Takehiko decided to take us, the viewers, into a philosophical journey of what being the strongest in the world actually curtailed. It wasn't about the women, the wealth, or even the journey that he endured to get there, but rather about his own inhibitions and feelings that he felt reaching that stage, how it affected him, and how it might affect someone else in his place. And although I can go on and on about the manga for the whole day, all these arguments have long become an afterthought in the minds of the readers, including me, with only one question remaining. Why did Vagabond suffer through one of the worst hiatuses ever that eventually crippled the whole series, making it come to a standstill? Well, the hiatuses had a fairly good reason behind them. You see, Takehiko was so ingrained in his characters' thoughts and growth that he literally developed personalities dedicated to them in his mind. And I don't mean that in a nutty sense. He actually thought of his characters from the standpoint of them being living, breathing creatures with free will, which led him to difficulties whenever he wanted to arrive at an outcome of an interaction or a fight. Musashi was the easiest one to figure out, as he'd been in his mind for the longest. However, the other characters that had just crossed Musashi's path had to be given detailed backstories, and only after that would their actions be decided. But coming back to the present, it's going to be about a decade since the last chapter was published. Meanwhile, Takehiko seems to be in no hurry to complete or even work on it. The immense pressure he felt in his quest to complete the next perfect manga has drained him of his passion for drawing. The same passion that led him to abandon the G-pen for a brush to do the art of Vagabond, making it difficult yet fulfilling to draw the messiness of Miyamoto Musashi. And as for the series and its fanbase, well, it's well and alive, and some can say even thriving. I mean, you watching this video is a pretty good example of it, and maybe, just maybe, all the other Miyamotos out there in the world have taken the true path of the brave and are conquering their personal demons wherever they go. With the wavy yet rigid, benevolent yet raging, and calming yet agitating spirit of Takehiko's inside their psyche. I mean, in Takehiko's own words, preoccupied with a single tree, you'll miss the entire forest. And in this time of our lives, Vagabond seems to be the tree that's eluding our eyes from the forest of life. So we as fans move on to explore the wilderness, leaving what was a beautiful part of our journey behind. Not in mourning, but in reminiscing happiness. Personal life of Takehiko right now. As for Takehiko-sensei, he's taken a more relaxed approach to his work, choosing not to rush under the immense pressure of perfection. Instead, he's prioritized spending quality time with his family, making up for lost moments by being more present in his children's lives. He actively helps out and cherishes the opportunity to watch them grow, finding balance and fulfillment beyond the world of manga. This shift also inspired his creative process, allowing him to draw inspiration from his family's experiences and bringing a fresh perspective to his storytelling. As he continues to juggle family life with work, Takehiko-sensei emphasizes that true success is about nurturing both one's career and personal life. Ending prologue. Well, we can't really argue with that reason, as a family does really come before anything else. However, we would like to get to the end of Musashi's journey and what he makes out of his slaughter when he sits on top as Tenkai Muso through the eyes of Takehiko Inoue. With this, we've come to the end of the video, but I'd like to ask you one question. If you like the video, check out some similar ones on our channel right now. Until we meet again.